We are finally here. We're on the final chapter, covering the final function that is very necessary by management members. We are looking at control, the very last function. And sometimes the word control can take on a very negative connotation, but it's actually something that's very needed. Control, when we're referring to the area of management and a management function, we're referring to the regulatory process that establishes standards that achieve or that are set to achieve organizational goals, which compare actual performance to the standards, and then possibly taking corrective action when necessary to restore performance to those standards. Here are the learning outcomes for Chapter 16. The ability to describe the basic control process, discuss the various methods that managers can use to maintain that control, and then finally describing the behaviors, processes, and outcomes that today's managers are choosing to control in their organizations. So, standards. The basic control process begins with the establishment of clear standards of performance to those standards. Good standards enable goal achievement. Companies typically determine standards by listening to their customers. Customers are going to provide feedback, whether there be complaints or suggestions, and also by benchmarking. Benchmarking is when a company identifies a company that provides outstanding practices, processes, and some type of standard. At Bank of America, a lot of times we would use a Lowe's or a Chick-fil-A or a Home Depot in identifying outstanding practices because it was found that these companies had achieved a certain level of success. Within the control process, corrective action should be taken if it's warranted to repair performance deficiencies. The control process is a dynamic, cybernetic process, which means that through a repetitive process, feed is endlessly received. Constant attention to the feedback loop is necessary to keep the company's activity on course. Exhibit 16.1 provides a visual depiction of the cybernetic control process. We can see that we start with setting the standards, measuring performance, comparing our performance with the standards, then we identify deviations, analyze those deviations, and then develop and implement a program for corrective action. Then we go right back into the loop of then again measuring performance. The control process consists of three basic methods: feedback control, concurrent control, and feed-forward control. With the feed-forward, or the feedback, I should say, control, this is where a company will gather information about performance deficiencies after they occur. With concurrent, it's the same thing, except you're gathering information about the performances as they occur. This eliminates the delay between performance and feedback about the performance. And then feed-forward control, that's where the company is gathering information about the performance before they occur. So you're seeking to prevent or minimize performance deficiencies before they actually happen. Control is achieved when behavior and work procedures conform to standards and goals are actually accomplished. By contrast, control loss is a situation in which behavior and work procedures do not conform to standards. Maintaining control is important because control loss prevents an organization from achieving their goals. When control is lost, managers need to find out what happened and if there was anything they could have done to prevent it. Usually that's going to mean they're identifying deviations from standard performance. That means they're going to be analyzing the causes of those deviations, and then they're going to take corrective action. In your textbook, there is a scenario given. Rosedale Estates North is a Minneapolis apartment complex, and it started a DNA test of residents' dogs and their owners who were not cleaning up after them. Basically, they were going up, picking up the dog's poop, and they were doing DNA swabbing, and those that were found guilty, they were then having to pay a fine. However, how feasible was this really if you consider the cost? So that's something to definitely to think about and determine whether or not control is even worthwhile or truly possible. Another factor to consider is cybernetic feasibility. Cybernetic feasibility is the extent to which it's possible to implement each and every step in the control process. The extent to which it's possible to implement each of the 3 steps in the control process is going to make a real big difference. If one or more steps cannot be implemented, then maintaining effective control just might be difficult or impossible. Managers use 5 different methods to achieve control in their organizations. You see on the screen bureaucratic control, objective control, normative, concerted, and self-control. Bureaucratic control involves use of a hierarchical authority to influence employee behavior by rewarding or punishing employees for either compliance or non-compliance with the organization's policies, rules, and procedures. What typically happens though in these type of scenarios is most employees see more focus on those who are non-compliant. With objective control, many companies are moving away from bureaucratic and moving to objective, which is the use of observable measures of work behavior or outputs to assess performance and influence behavior. There you see more focus on what the employee's behavior is. With normative controls, the regulation of workers' behaviors and decisions through widely shared organizational values and beliefs are where the focus is. Under self-control, this is a system where the control system with managers and workers lies within themselves. They control their own behavior by setting their own goals and monitoring their own progress. Whereas normative controls are based on beliefs that are strongly held and widely shared throughout a company, concerted controls are based on beliefs that are shaped and negotiated by work groups. If you control for just one thing, such as cost, as many grocers have done in their meat departments, then other dimensions like marketing, customer service, and quality are likely to suffer. But if you try to control for too many things, then managers and employees become confused about what's really important. In the end, successful companies find a balance that comes from doing 3 or 4 things right, like managing costs, providing value, and keeping customers and employees satisfied. The balanced scorecard approach enables companies to achieve balanced control by choosing to focus on important components such as budgets, cash flows, and economic value added, customer defections, and waste and pollution. That is the end for Chapter 16. I urge you to please go through the chapter and read through thoroughly. The group that is assigned to cover control, I'm sure, will reinforce many of the things that were gone over in this slide. So please read through and don't forget to do your quiz. And I look forward to seeing you in class. Take care.